All right, and we are live. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to start very shortly here. Just want to give folks a bit more time to filter in. Alrighty. Again, hello and thank you so much for joining NFI Solutions today for this presentation. We are super excited for you to witness a live demo of JourneyGuide, a powerful retirement planning software that will change the way your clients see retirement and build confidence in your relationship with them. We are joined today by Michael Smith, co-founder and president of JourneyGuide. And just a few housekeeping items before we begin here. This webinar will be recorded. If you would like a copy of the webinar after this presentation ends, please send an email request to marketing@nfisolutions.com, or you can give us a call at 952-887-1239. This information is pinned in the chat as well. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A chat and we will go about answering them. And if any questions pop in throughout the demo, then I will definitely let Michael know. And all right, take it away, Michael.
All right, thank you, Selena. So thanks for joining, everybody. Maybe to start out, I'll give just a brief little bit of background about myself and why we started JourneyGuide. So my background, I was at Goldman Sachs for 17 years, working in the technology area alongside the investment management division. So doing portfolio modeling, asset allocation, optimization modeling, and actually have a patent on my work there. And needed to actually move back home to Indiana. We lived out in New York. Needed to move back to Indiana for some family reasons for my parents. And so connected with somebody in the insurance world who introduced me to these concept of life annuities and looking at whether an annuity actually made sense in a retirement plan. Well, being at Goldman, I had no idea. I didn't even know how to spell annuity, but just focusing on the investment side. But what we decided to do was take the kind of the algorithms and the kind of the mathematical concepts and apply them to income annuities and annuities in general, and see if it actually would help somebody in retirement, kind of planning through and dealing with things like longevity and sequence of return risk. And so what resulted from that study was actually putting together software that I'm going to show you today. And so, again, as Selena mentioned, happy to take questions as we go. So certainly am happy to answer any questions that you have. So let's jump right into it. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And so what I'll show you is this is our planning tool. And what I'm going to do is actually walk through a case. It's one that we've already entered in here, but we've designed JourneyGuide to be extremely simple to use, even though the calculations are robust, and we'll put them against any planning tool out there. We tried to make it extremely simple and really to the point where an advisor could even use it right there with the client. We've trademarked co-planning as a phrase, and that's really the way that we've designed it. So let me jump right into it. So I'll take you into this client, so John and Susan Williams, and there's This first page is just an overview of some of the information that we've already entered. There's 3 screens of entry. So again, we're only capturing the information that you really need in order to put together a plan quickly. We know that a lot of tools, you start to get bogged down by all of the details and really things that aren't even needed when you're trying to put together a plan and show the power of what you as an advisor can do for that client. So the about you is the demographic type of information, name, date of birth, when they're planning to retire, the spouse, same information, the state. And this is important because we calculate taxes, both federal and state taxes in our calculations. The annual spending goal. And so this is actually a number that we calculate this number that you'll see in a few minutes. But here you can enter it really just as a goal that maybe the client has some idea of how much they would like to spend in retirement. That's after tax in today's dollars. And then we have all kinds of assumptions that are already predefined that you can change, like their life expectancy and quite a few of those types of things. So let me go on to the second page. And this is where you would enter any investments and savings information that you might have. Now, you don't have to enter all of the individual positions of all accounts. What we do is we try to take it from an asset class or sub-asset class view. And so initially we have a kind of a simple entry where it's broken out by their qualified and Roth and non-qualified accounts. So kind of all grouped together. So your current balance in that account, as well as the asset mix. And you can actually modify these. These are just model portfolios that you can certainly go in and change if you wanted to, representing quite a few. We actually model 18 different asset classes and sub-asset classes, which I'll touch on in a minute. You can go into a more detailed if you wanted to enter multiple accounts instead of just kind of at a high level. And in fact, if they have an existing annuity, you could also enter that here, of the details of what that annuity might look like and how it's used in their accounts. So once you enter their account information, what their retirement asset mix is, and this is different potentially than before retirement because they may want to have a different allocation. And then any advisory fees that you may want to include there. And then the third and final page of entry is what we call income and expense. And so this is really broken out into 2 pieces, Social Security as well as anything else, any other income and expenses. So for Social Security, we do the same calculation behind the scenes here that the Social Security Administration does within their quick calc tool. And so you can either enter their last full-time wage, or if you have a statement, you can enter their statement as well. So in this case, we had John, we knew how much money he was making. We didn't have his statement. And so we do the calculation of what his benefit will be. And then Susan, we actually did have her statement. And on the statement, it was saying it was $1,350 a month at full retirement age. And so, we do those calculations and then determine when the spousal benefit will kick in and how much those values will be. Now, something else that we do that we've never actually seen before in any other tools is that we do an estimation of what the Board of Trustees for the Social Security Administration is expecting to see in terms of a reduction. A lot of people are worried that Social Security won't be there when they retire. And so what we do is we look at the trustees report every year, identify, okay, well, what is that percentage of reduction? And in the last one that they just published, they're only going to be able to pay out 77% of benefits in the year 2033. So we take that into account. Now, you could certainly turn that off, but to provide a little bit more conservative view of Social Security, we include that by default. And then the last thing for entry is any additional income and expenses. And this is really where you can make kind of the client's case look like them. So for example, this person, John, has a pension. So he worked at GE for a bunch of years, and he's planning on having a pension of $1,000 a month with a survivorship. And then, you indicate how long and if there's any additional growth. Well, you can enter quite a few different types of income here. Maybe they have a rental property or they're expecting an inheritance. And if you don't see it, you just put other and kind of build your own there. You can also enter any expenses that might be like large one-time expenses, like they're expecting the purchase of a new home or downsizing and moving into a different home in a few years. So you can include that type of transaction as well. And so that's it in terms of entry. And so that you can click next, or up here, where do I stand? Now, this is the first page of results. Now, what you just saw there was we ran 5,000 Monte Carlo simulations, and doing that every year. So we essentially were running millions and millions of calculations in less than a second. This is part of the kind of the secret sauce of our algorithms, is how we can do this all so quickly. The first answer that we provide is basically where they stand right now. So they wanted to be able to spend $85,000 in retirement, and we give them what a lot of tools that do any kind of Monte Carlo simulations might tell you. What's your likelihood? What's your chance of spending that goal? Well, unfortunately, people don't always think in terms of percentages, because oftentimes what will happen is people will look at this and, okay, well, what does that really mean? 58%. Does that mean I can only spend 58% of 85,000? Like, how do I translate that for my client? So what we have done is actually kind of flip that problem on its head, where we're actually telling you at your target success rate, which is 95% likelihood of not running out of money, how much can this person spend? How much can they spend in retirement? And this number will then, this is the first year amount in today's dollars, and that would go up with inflation. We provide then a taper, because people tend to spend less between the ages of 75 and 85. And then it kicks back up again because of healthcare. So we've done a considerable amount of research, worked with a number of leading universities on this, and found, what those spending habits are for retirees, and have built that into the software. So you're able to give a number to your client that's a conservative number, a 95% likelihood, but it's a realistic number. It's one that's after tax, that they can understand, and in today's dollars. And so we graphically represent where that money is coming from. Now, for those that are, I would say, the engineering types, I'm sure you have some clients that are like this, that want to see the numbers. They actually want to see, okay, well, what does that cash flow actually look like? Well, you can see and pull that up for them and actually show them, okay, year over year, what is this going to look like with that particular sequence of returns? Now, just to show how much calculation that we're actually doing every year and the level of detail, you can actually click on this column for federal taxes, and we share this one. This is actually to the point where we can calculate the numbers that go onto a 1040. So in other words, every year for all of those 5,000 simulations, we're calculating both whatever the ordinary income tax would be because of, money that's coming from, their pension, IRA, from Social Security, all of those sources of income, as well as what any non-qualified capital gains might be with a loss carryover. So we're doing all of those calculations, again, all under a second, so that you can give your answers very, very quickly to your clients. So let me go back. Okay, so now that we have kind of our essentially our answer of where they stand right now, the next step is to look at, okay, there's a gap in how much they think that they would like to be able to spend in retirement and how much they can spend in retirement. And so the next step is then to really look at, okay, well, what are their options? And we want to focus on solutions, not sacrifices. So this is something we say quite a bit. Typically a planner might tell somebody that, hey, you're going to have to work another 3 or 4 years in order to meet your goal, or you're going to have to save, X thousands of dollars now, in order to be able to spend what you want in retirement. Well, we think that, yes, you may need to consider those things, but first we'd like to look at some other solutions, like maybe they need to adjust when they're planning to take Social Security. And also maybe they should consider, some guaranteed stream of income from an annuity. And, so those are the things that we start to look at. And we just provide just a glimpse at what those numbers might be in terms of improvement. So what you can either click on one of those to go into them directly, or you can go into explore options. And this is where we kind of call this the money page, because this is really where you as an advisor, an agent, can show the client, really what you can do for them. And so what we're going to do here is we are going to make changes on this left-hand side, and we're going to see those changes take place over on the right-hand side. And again, with every change, we're running through the entire plan, all 5,000 simulations every year in order to come up with new numbers. So the blue column here, this represents that number, their current plan, how much they could spend in retirement, right? The $68,700. So let's go ahead and add in an annuity. Now, what we have here is we actually are getting considerable amount of information from carriers. So you can see the drop down of all of the carriers that we actually support. You can select one of those. You can actually customize your own JourneyGuide settings to only show, just the carriers that you work with. I'll go ahead and do an Allianz product because I want to show the kind of the calculations that are going on behind the scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and include a rider. I'm going to use Core Income 7. And because we've worked with Allianz, we understand how this is calculated to the point where we actually have the calculations down to the dollar to match illustrations. So we know exactly how these are calculated, and rates are getting updated every day. So you can rest assured that what you're showing here is actually accurately representing this product. Now, what we do here is, because we said we want to include a rider, we're actually going through each one of these strategies with the corresponding riders with our 5,000 simulations and showing you some results here. The first thing that we're doing is we're saying, okay, let me go ahead and expand this. We said that we're going to start payout, and these are just the defaults. You can change any of these things of how much to put into the annuity, where the money should come from, whether it should be single or joint. By default, we start 7 years out, so just past retirement. So this is starting at the year 2028. And we're showing the first year guaranteed. So in the year 2028, what that guaranteed amount is. Then we're looking at, from our 5,000 simulations, depending on the rider, you may have a first year average that's lower because of markets, or you may have it kind of be a little bit higher because of markets, depending on the rider. So with this particular product, option 1 is just a level payment. That's why you can see $18,000, and their average income across all years is still 18 grand. With the option 2 rider, it's a rising income option. So the first year payment is a little lower than it was on the level, but you can see the average across all years is actually higher because they actually had that opportunity for growth. And we're taking all of that into account. So let's go ahead and include the fixed and for option 2, and I'll go ahead and include this NASDAQ one as well. And I'm going to put 50% in both. So by including that annuity, and what it was is by default, we do 20%, and we're pulling it from their qualified assets in this case. So you can see the percentage of increase. So we went from 68,000, how much they can spend in retirement, from 68,700 all the way to almost 75,000. That's almost a 9% increase in how much they can spend in retirement, just because we reallocated some of their assets. So this was a new purchase. We reallocated some of their assets into the annuity, and we can show the power of what that would do for them in retirement. And here's that cash flow graph. The green represents the income that's coming from the annuity, and you can see that it actually is rising. So out here, it's considerably higher than it was in that first year. Now, I'll spend just a minute talking about the income frontier graph, because this is actually one of the most powerful things that we show. I think once you understand it, it really can be a useful tool to determine what's the best plan, kind of showing that it's in the best interest of the client. So the income frontier graph represents essentially all 5,000 simulations and how much they can spend, all in one graph. So the x-axis is not time. That's actually representing all of those different markets because of the 5,000 simulations. On the left-hand side, it's really poor markets. And on the right-hand side, it's really great markets. And then the points, or this y-axis, is how much they can spend at each one of those market conditions. So I'll start over here on the left-hand side. So at the 95th percentile, that was kind of what we were solving for initially. That there you can see, I know it might be small, but their current plan is the blue line. They can spend 68,000. There's that 68,000 number. So that's how much they can spend with a 95% certainty of not running out of money. Now, if we go all the way over to the right, this is like market nirvana, and I'll hover over here on the 4th percentile. They could start spending 123,000 with their current plan, but they'd only have a 4% likelihood of being able to sustain that level of spending all the way through. So what we're doing is we're showing how much they can spend at each one of those market conditions. Now, as I was thinking about how do I represent an annuity in a plan, I kept thinking about, okay, well, certainly the annuity, because you're taking risk off the table, the annuity is going to provide that guaranteed income. It's going to be better for you in poor markets, right? That makes sense. So of course, the green line now represents with the annuity. You can see over here on the, like at the 95th percentile, it's higher, of course, because we've taken risk off the table. They have that guaranteed income stream. So if markets perform poorly, they'll do better with the annuity. But really what we want to see is, where's that crossover? The crossover actually is way out here at the 14th percentile, meaning markets would have to perform, 13% or better. They'd have to perform extremely, extremely well in order for this annuity to not actually have made sense as a purchase for this client. So in all of these other situations, all of the remaining, to the left here, the client is better off because of that decision of going into the annuity. Now, we have a strategy here that often people will implement, where you said, okay, well, we actually put 20% of their assets into the annuity. So really, if their target allocation was a 60-40 initially, what if we actually were to think of this as a bond replacement strategy? And instead of the remaining assets continue to be 60-40, what if we actually made it 70-30? Well, if we do that, you can see up here at the 95th percentile, we really didn't take much of a sacrifice. In fact, I mean, it's still 74,007. It's still an 8.5% increase. But look what it did to this frontier graph. Now across the board, with all markets that we're modeling, all 5,000 markets, they actually are better off in each one of those because of this new strategy, which essentially is a bond replacement for that, including that annuity. So this is statistical evidence that what you as an advisor are actually showing the client is really in their best interest, because you're looking at all possible market conditions that we model and showing that, hey, actually, they'll be able to spend more. It'll be an improvement for them. And so that's just including the annuity, changing their asset mix. And then finally, they're not quite at their goal, but what if we go ahead and consider, optimizing Social Security? So we could keep moving when they take Social Security out. If they were to defer because they have enough money to do this, they can bridge that gap. And you could even consider including another annuity to bridge that gap if you wanted to. But look, by doing that, you've actually surpassed their goal, a 25% increase in how much they can spend in retirement. So they can now spend over 85,000, 86,000 in fact, starting in that first year. So once you've done this, you've put together the plan, what you can do is actually save this scenario. So let me go ahead and just say, I'll call it Social Security and annuity. We're going to go ahead and generate a report. So we've gone through this. We have a non-objection letter from FINRA. So this is already approved to be able to show your client. And here's a kind of a few screenshots of what this PDF will look like. It's essentially what you had just walked through with them in the application. And we can go ahead and download. So it's generating that PDF. And so here is the PDF. Now we put JourneyGuide here. You would actually be able to customize this where you could have your own logo on here. Obviously it would have your name and information there, contact information, but it's showing all of the details, and you can customize this report to not include. I've included almost every slide here, but you could just pick and choose which ones you wanted to show the client. Okay, and including our asset class assumptions of all of the asset classes that we're modeling with their mean, standard deviation, and correlations. Okay, so let me go back. So that is it for showing you the details about that one particular case. Now, something that I know that advisors find very useful is when you're working with your person at NFI, what you would be able to do is actually share a case. So if you've entered the information, about this particular client, and you said, you know what, I really would like NFI to help me with, trying to figure out what annuity would be kind of the right fit for this person. Then what you can do is actually click on this share link, and what you would do is you would set up that person in your connections, kind of like the people that you would want to share this with, just by simply putting in their email address. And then you can share it by a particular access type. You could say, I just want them to have only read-only access, or maybe I just want them to be able to create scenarios, kind of add some annuities, see what that would look like. Or I want to give them full access to change anything within the case. So you have that capability to limit that, that access. And then a start date and an end date. They would then, as soon as you click save, they would get notification that, hey, there's a case that somebody has shared with them. You can also see, I should have clicked on that before, you can see all of the changes that have been made to that particular case. Now, I've had this one around for a little while, so you can see that I've made a lot of changes to this case, but that helps in actually seeing what somebody else has done if you shared it. Okay. And that is it in terms of the planning tool. Now, there's one other aspect of the planning tool that I'd like to share with you. And this is really from a kind of a lead generation aspect as well. So what we've done is we've built what we call the retirement readiness calculator. And what you can do is actually, and they'll show up right here within your planning tool, your list of clients. If you click on generate calculator link, it'll actually give you a URL that's specific to you, to your particular version of JourneyGuide. So let me go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to share this tab. Okay. And so what you can do is you can include this link, this URL in maybe your signature, your email signature. We've seen people do Facebook campaigns where they can, where they send this out to attract people. Or you could put it on your website, but it's a way to really give somebody access to see what could their retirement actually look like in retirement. So I'll just put in some information here. And you can see it's pretty simple to enter. When do they plan on retiring, their last full-time wage, their state. So it's a lot of the same type of information. We won't include the wife. So let's just put in how much they have in their IRA. Let's say they have $1 million. They're contributing $1,000 a month, let's say. What their asset mix happens to be. Go ahead and add that in and then finish. That's it. So what they would do then is they would get that where do I stand? And again, it's taking some assumptions in terms of how much they're going to be getting in Social Security. But it gives them a sense of, okay, how much can they spend in retirement? And just a few ideas of what you as their agent could help them with, and looking at, providing additional protected income. And then all of this information on the right-hand side is all customizable. So they could click on this and schedule a meeting with you. But they are essentially getting just a very brief snippet. And we want this to then drive, them to you in order to get you additional business. So let me just refresh this page. And so I had just entered Sample Smith. So what happened there was that, they went through it. If they did not actually finish the whole thing, I would still get some information, if they completed the About You, depending on how far they went. And then you can click on that and actually go in and see kind of what it was that they had entered. But then you can also move this up to your case list. So let's say you meet with them and you want to pull them in as an actual client, and there you go, just like that. And so then you have, all of that information already pre-filled in that they had entered before. Okay. So that is it in terms of what I was hoping to show you with JourneyGuide today.
All right. And since that was, we did have a couple questions that popped in, Michael.
Sure.
First one was, can this software help us with compliance for best interest regulations?
Certainly, what I would recommend is that you include a report and kind of this analysis, put it into your folder. It would, obviously, it's up to, your own broker dealer, whoever it is that you actually work through to ensure that, hey, they need to give the final say as to whether this is going to cover you for best interest. There's no kind of blanket statement across the board. It would be up to that broker dealer. But we have, quite a few broker dealers that have already said that this is something that would be, very, very helpful in providing evidence.
All right, awesome. And another question that popped in during the presentation was, does this software store my client's data?
So the only information that we are storing is the information that you saw here. We do not actually store any identifying information that would be able to link, this person to an account. So there's no secret information. So we do not store Social Security numbers or account numbers. So that information is not. We don't keep any of that, but we do store, obviously the information that you've entered in order to build up a case, so that you can come back and reference it in the future.
All right, and I'll just give a little bit more time to for folks to put in their questions if they have any. Just give a little bit of time there.
Sure.
And if you had any last minute thoughts, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we're here to help. Once you sign up, and I think what maybe this is probably the time to say it, but definitely reach out if you are interested in JourneyGuide. Reach out to your NFI Solutions contact, and they can help you in getting set up. And so we actually are running a deal. I think I'm allowed to say this. We are running a deal with another tool called Indexalizer, where it actually is a significant discount. It actually is 50% off the price of the tool. So it actually would end up being $25 a month. So it's a significant discount because of the relationship that we have with NFI Solutions.
Okay, and it looks like no additional questions popped in here, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today in this webinar. Same to you, Michael. Really appreciate your time today. And
Thank you.
yeah, and Michael said it himself. Feel free to reach out to NFI Solutions with any questions or concerns. If there is interest in JourneyGuide, we do look forward to working with you and getting you on the path to no stress success. Thank you so much.